The recent Dutch parliamentary elections on November 22nd sent shockwaves through the European Union with the wider-than-expected victory of Geert Wilders' far-right Party for Freedom, or PVV, which took 25% of the Dutch vote. The Netherlands has now joined the ranks of Hungary, Italy, Slovakia, and even Finland and Sweden, where populist movements are in power, while more and more far-right parties are joining the European mainstream, raising profound questions about the future political trajectory of the European Union. Firstly, because of the impact that Wilders' electoral success could have on the Netherlands' position on key European policies. The PVV's program includes radical measures and drastic cuts, as Elisabeth Kuiper, an expert at the European Policy Centre, explained during a debate at the EPC.
If you look carefully at the program that Wilders from the Freedom Party presented, there are huge consequences for the EU, because he speaks very clearly about, for example, the need to slash EU funds, so less money to the EU. Eventually also he speaks a potential Nexit, so the Netherlands leaving the EU. When it comes to Ukraine, it's very well known that in the past he had a more pro-Russia stance. And when it comes to the support of the Netherlands for the war in Ukraine, he already said indeed he's not in favor of sending weapons to Ukraine. Of course, that links to enlargement as well, where he's also not in favor of enlargement of EU member states.
She added that if the Dutch election results are indicative of future trends in member states, the EU could face increased political turmoil in 2024 and beyond. If the PVV manages to form a coalition with the right-wing government, it could adopt a more skeptical approach to EU enlargement. While observers generally agree that Wilders will not push the Netherlands to leave the EU, he will for sure try to redefine it from within, a Europe where national sovereignty prevails and a smaller budget for the EU. This means that he will most likely oppose enlargement, which could slow down or even hinder the accession process of the candidate countries. Still, despite Wilders' assurances that he would be a prime minister for all, concerns remain about the stability of any resulting coalition. The road to forming a coalition government in the Netherlands is fraught with difficulties. The potential alliance between the PVV, the Liberal VVD and the centrist New Social Contract, or NSC, seems a likely option based on the distribution of seats. However, differences over issues such as the rule of law and the role of the EU could complicate negotiations between these parties, and the new leader of the VVD has already refused to join a Wilders-led cabinet. Rem Korteweg, senior researcher at the Klingendal Institute, sees an alternative coalition scenario in which Frans Timmermans, a former EU climate commissioner, could lead a government, as he said in the same debate.
So the only alternative of a Dutch government following from these election results that doesn't contain Geert Wilders' party is one led by Frans Timmermans. And I don't think at this point we can entirely rule out a scenario where Timmermans becomes prime minister. So my assessment is we're going to have a very long coalition formation process and a very short coalition.
As the process of forming a coalition continues, the EU is keeping a close eye on the potential impact of the Dutch elections on its future direction. But, as I said earlier, the Netherlands is not unique. The rise of other far-right parties in Europe could potentially paralyze the EU and put the brakes on enlargement.